Hi there, everybody. This is John Gray, welcoming you back to Raising the Jedi, Episode 8. We're here now to review Het Heru. We're going to pick up on Part 2 and see exactly how Het Heru manifests itself as the Mary Magdalene. Okay, I have notes that are going to kind of help me keep on track here. Okay, but first, what I want everybody to do is to take a look at this video on YouTube. It's called Mary Magdalene Meets Jesus, and what this is going to do is help everyone to see the manifestation of Het Heru, the principle of beauty, the principle of art, the principle of attractiveness, of fertility, known by the many names of Ishtar, Easter, known by the name of Venus, known as let me see, what did I say here? Known as Inanna and Aphrodite. These are the many names that we've come to recognize through the ages and through the various empires that ruled on the planet. So we're going to take a look and see how Mary Magdalene is played out in the latest rendition as the Mary Magdalene. So take your time, pause this video, and come back, and then we're going to look at some detail. Okay? Alright, we're going to do this right now. And I'm just going to wait for a few seconds, and you can pause it right here. Alright, I'm going to take it that you actually went there to YouTube and watched Mary Magdalene Meets Jesus, and what you should have seen there is a very moving depiction of the Mary Magdalene overcoming the sense of unworthiness. Okay, this typically happens when there are people who have this beauty about them. This is that Het Heru attribute where they're either sexy or they're very attractive, and so their interactions are interpreted by others or judged by others as being flirtatious or being a whore or a harlot. These are typically the situations that happen in life, and so we see in the movie or in the short clip that Mary Magdalene had to get over that in order to come closer to her true self, which is the Christ. Her meeting the Christ finally, and then crying, the tears of sorrow that we see here depicted in the Paut Neteru as Auset, as the lunar force or the lunar attribute. The sorrows of Auset is one of the stories, and we have to keep in mind that when we're evolving up the psychological consciousness on the tree of life, when we move up the tree, we carry parts of the things that we master to the next level. So whether you're here, you're still going to have some of those attributes. Okay, and here, this is all of these attributes. These are the same feminine or the divine feminine attributes of one another. They're just at different levels. So there's only one divine feminine there, but there are multiple ways that it's played out or it's enacted in the world. Okay, so she overcomes her sense of unworthiness and moves higher to meet her true identity, um, or her next identity, her next level identity, which is the Christ. But she was at the feet of the Christ, which we see right here. This would be the foot of the pyramid, and he's at the top of the earthly pyramid. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at this section of the Het Heru, and we're going to see how critical it is on the tree of life, because this is our developmental aspect of being. Okay, and I'll give you a sneak peek right here. This will have to do with how our psyche evolves from the wee ages of 0 to 6 to all the way up to about 18 to 26. Okay, and these are the attributes that we have to go through. These are automatic. These are the ones that we grow through automatically, but then we have to put more effort in order to get to here. So Het Heru is like on the cutting edge of development. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind. This is the key to part 2 of Het Heru. It's the developmental stage that actually gets us to the very edge, and then we put in the effort to go to our next level of being. Okay, which is in the center of the tree, which is Heru, which is the Christ, which is actually the beginning of the Christ consciousness right here. Okay, so let's see. Let me make sure I got everything for in my notes that we need to go through. What else we saw? What else did we see in the clip? Okay, well, one of the things I wanted to bring forward in the clip is that anytime we feel, and that was one emotional piece, anytime we feel moved by a particular story is because it has elements of truth in it. Okay, and anytime truth is felt within, that means there's a pattern that is present within you. Okay, and so it can be any story, but if that story has that pattern involved in it, that has the attributes that are found in the Het Heru, which is the blueprint of the human soul or the human being, then it will resonate with you. Okay, and that's just one of the principles of resonance. Let's see, what else did we see? Okay, the anointing of the feet, and the wiping the feet with the hair. We've noticed that there is a, and I keep looking down because I have episode 7's board, and I want to show you how Het Heru, the beauty is concerned with the hair. Okay, and we see here at the bottom where she's smelling the flower, her hand is on her hair, which is a sign or symbol of beauty. We know that hair is an accentuator of the feminine force and of perceived femininity. So keep that in mind. We're just connecting all of the dots here across time, across space, across cultures, just to show you how we apply principles. Okay, so we're going to move forward. Let's see. I want to move also into the area, since we've covered Mary Magdalene, who is the attractive one, who is the one who draws near, or who attracts the hero, or who arouses the hero. It's the process. Okay, so since we've gone through that, I think we've touched on the core. So any other details that are involved with the Mary Magdalene, they're going to be established just by what we've covered here. So anything else is icing. All right. So we're going to look forward to Het Heru and the importance of art, the importance of symbol, and the importance of imagery in order to bring forward the health, the benefits of healing in our mind, in our body, which allows our soul to express itself fully. Okay, so let's take a look at art, and we're going to start with this little piece of art that I've put together. I've put this together. This is, of course, a motif that has been seen in many ancient Egyptian portrayals, so-called Egyptian. There's Kemetic. There's even more pre-dynastic depictions of this, where we see the goddess, the sky goddess Nut, N-U-T. We say nut in the Western tradition, but it is really pronounced Nut. Okay, N-U-T, Nut. Okay, she's actually arched over, and she's also called Tefnut. She's arched over the earth god called Geb. Okay, and she's separated in her traditional depictions by the god of wind, Shu. Okay, so we have here where I've actually substituted, I've substituted the Paut Neteru in the place of Shu in an effort to kind of demonstrate the birth, or the coming forth from the womb itself, in this particular configuration, the life of man, or the involution of man's consciousness into the world. And so when we look at these symbols, okay, we can get a lot of information, and this is the key of Het Heru. The faculty of Het Heru is imagery and pictures. They carry volumes of packets of information that can be understood all at one time. And so we can have whole libraries of written literature that wouldn't be able to cover what a picture would be able to show, especially a loaded picture like this. Okay, we could talk math, we can talk science, we can talk chemistry, all of the different sciences within this, and still, we wouldn't exhaust it all. Okay, so this is the power of art, and so we want to know all the fullest extent of what art can do. And I want to give a shout to Midwest Elite Preparatory Academy by Miss Rhonda. Miss Rhonda is the founder of that very fine school. I had an opportunity, the great opportunity, to teach some of her students 8 years ago, and it was just a joy. And so with that, Miss Rhonda, continue on. I'm hoping to be able to do something in the future. All right, so I want to continue and show how the next element here, this would be the earth, and I have it in a configuration that actually can be tested and verified through our senses, through mathematics, and it can be tested by anyone to see how this whole environment that we live in is actually laid out. Okay, let me get one other thing that may kind of get your mind going here. We want to look at language, and we want to look at imagery. Okay, doesn't that look kind of familiar? Okay, I'm gonna put this. Let me see if I can raise it up here. Okay, I'm going to put this right here. And what are some of the things that we see involved in this timepiece? I mean, this kind of serendipitous. We have a little dome here, a little glass dome, but inside of this dome, we have an hour hand and we have a minute hand. Okay, and so hour is spelled Hour, and we can see that same kind of spelling in the word Horus, which is the sun. You know, it's often depicted as the sun god, and we have a sun in the Het Heru, and we also have the minute, min, or the moon. We have both of these. Okay. Not only that, but in this whole picture, this whole schematic, we have all the planets. You know, we start off with Earth, okay, and then we move up to the moon, and then we move up to Mercury, Venus. We have the sun, which was also historically termed as a planet. We have Mars. We have Jupiter. We have Saturn. We have Neptune and Uranus. And I think sometimes these are often switched around, but I'm going to stick with Uranus because Uranus has the letter UR, or Ur, which is the most high, and in this schematic, Ur on here is going to be the most high. But please correct me if I'm wrong. I have no shame in being wrong. I just want to be correct. Okay, so anybody leave me a note via Facebook or YouTube. Let me know if I got these mixed up, but I'm pretty sure Ur is on top. Uranus. Okay, so we have all the planets inside the arch, inside the dome. I mean, it's a feminine dome, and in our scriptures, we're told in the Holy Bible scriptures, we're told that in the creation of the earth, there was a separation of the waters. Okay, the waters that were up here and the waters down here. So that suggests that this must be water up here, and we know that water is a feminine principle. Okay, it just happens that water's down here as well, which makes the whole cosmos of a feminine type of nature. Okay, nature. See, we're using language. We're using some of Sebek. We're using all of these things. We're creating packets of information. Okay, that have patterns in them, and they all link up. And so this is what the attribute or the principle of Het Heru does. Okay, so let's just take, for instance, if we went up the tree, we went from Osset to Sebek and just stopped there. Okay, we only have emotions and facts, fact finding, measurement, all of the hard linear logic and expertise and so forth, without actually seeing the bigger picture. And that's what Het Heru allows. The principle of Het Heru allows us to see forms in whole packets. Okay, and we get to see fractalizations, which are whole packets or part pieces, whole or representations of the whole in smaller pieces. Okay, so when we get that, we get to see the nature of things at various levels. We get to expand our consciousness as far as we can expand it, and we can reduce our consciousness as far as we can reduce them in scale to get to the premise of truth inside of our creation. Okay, so that's the whole value of art. The whole value of symbol and imagery is to get a bigger picture or a whole view of things at various scales. Okay, that's Het Heru. this is art. This is shown in art. All right, I think I've covered a lot on here. So we're gonna move into, if I can get this off safely. We're going to move into the psychological evolution. Okay, and we see that we're at the bottom of the tree where we have earth, we have water, which is Aset, Geb, Aset, Sebek, Het Heru, and then our next phase up here, which is the Christ phase, and how that actually has a physical occupation in the cranium, okay, and how inside this cranium, when these things are operational, they actually have an effect, a direct effect on the whole body, okay. So we're getting to see mathematics, we get to see fractalization, we get to see correspondences, okay, we get to see placement, okay. This is the human brain in the side view, and we get to see those areas that are activated. So it's all color coded. We have the reds, we have the blues, okay. This would be your reptilian, which correspond with earthly automatic activity, which is referred to as reptilian, okay. So in a lot of cases when we talk about the reptilians, we hear people talk about these reptilians, is really talking about the human being and the part of the brain that they occupy the most, okay. When you have materialists, people who only are in a thing for the money, you know, and not looking out for the betterment of people. When we look at you know, this type of activity on a developmental scale, or on an evolutionary scale, when we talk evolution, we're thinking of consciousness, okay. So on an evolutionary scale, that would be from 0 to 6 years old, and on 0 to 6, we know the children, they're not really concerned about, you know, they're only concerned about their own needs. Hey, did I eat? I need to eat. You know, am I cold? I need to you know, cuddle up with mommy. You know, those types of things. Food, clothing, shelter. You know, did I got to use the bathroom. You know, those automatic functions. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with here, and we're seeing the math of it. Okay, and again, we have the color code here and how it relates to the cranium. Okay, in this level of the cranium, okay, if I turn like so, we can see that this involves the medulla oblongata. Okay, these operate the autonomic motor, the movement of the body. And in this area, we have the mammalian brain, the mammal brain. This is the emotional centers of the brain, okay, which comes into this area. And in this area, this is where we have the hypothalamus and the pituitary and the pineal, you know, in the pineal glands. These glands, you know, we have that master gland, the pituitary gland, that actually regulates other endocrine glands that extend throughout the body. Okay, so that goes into the milk production when women are having the baby. It goes into the production of epinephrine in the adrenals, in the gonads. It produces the sex cells, etc. So this is what mammals go through. The mammary, they feed their young with milk. Okay, so that would be here the mother Mary, the mammalian, the one who's involved in the cognitive aspect where memory is involved. This is where the greatest learning happens from ages 6 to 12. Actually, the quickest learning happens here because it's all observation, but the application of what they're learning happens here from 6 to 12 because they have to remember all of those things that they've seen and heard, and they get to actually put them into use here. This would be the place of the mercy seat, or the seat of mercy, and we see the glyph. We see Isis, the glyph of Isis or Osset. This is the throne where she sits. Okay, that throne would be here, where the pituitary would be seated. This would be the mercy seat that we would actually associate with the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, so we see all of these correspondences. Okay, it's in our literature, it's in our religious texts, it's in our symbology, and all of these things are supported in our physiology. Okay, so we're talking science, we're talking biology, we're talking chemistry. Okay, chem, all right. We're talking anatomy. All right, so we can actually look at how these things play out. This is the tree of life on the very bottom end that has to do with development. Okay, the psychological evolution. Physically, there's no real evolution when it comes to the human being, because the human being already has everything that it needs. All it needs to do is evolve psychologically. When the psyche is balanced all the way from the bottom of the tree all the way up, that's when we have the physical development to reach its maximum strength and potency. Then we can have the powers that are talked about when we reach the Christ consciousness. Okay, and we're going to get there in this scheme, or in the schematic here. Okay, psychological evolution goes up. If we're doing this simultaneously, we're going to assure balance, because there's a middle pillar that we need to sustain. Okay, remember, we don't want to veer to the left or veer to the right, because that would be imbalance. All right, so if we're going up, this would be our devotion. Okay, keeping on the straight and narrow, you have to be devoted to what's next. Okay, all right, so what's next is the birth of our Christ consciousness. So in order to get there, we have to make sure that we're using our sound hearing. Okay, that would be Sebek, the canine with the ears, and then we have to use our magnetic frequency, or the graphic imagery. We have to be able to see things, see images in our minds, see whole images and put them together. Okay, doing this, we actually form a synergy here, and this synergy, we see that there's a seed of life. Okay, and we're going to get into that, because this becomes sacred geometry. If only we were taught sacred geometry in art class, boy oh boy, we would actually see the science of life. Okay, this is why I wanted to go in deep on the episode 7 in the first presentation of Het Heru. I wanted to get into that, into the flower of life, or the seed of life, and the tree of life. Okay, this is the only way we can actually come into the full cognitive recognition or emergence of the consciousness of the tree of life. We have to have the faculty to put it together. We have to have both faculties to put it together. Okay, we won't necessarily get to the fullness of the seed of life or the flower of life just by going one or the other, because they both require their balanced faculties to be maximized. Okay, so again, on the left side we have the Sebekian attributes of sound hearing. We have it is a projecting frequency. Okay, meaning it's not an internal kind. It's not a feminine frequency. It's a masculine frequency. It deals with equations, logic, language, vector linear lines, meaning straight lines, technical tools, okay, rulers, compasses, things like that. We know the Masonic orders use those. It examines detail, okay? And it measures and it tries to prove things according to measurement and observation of details. On the other side, on its complementary side, when it's balanced, okay, it's not as opposing when it's balanced. It's complementary. All right, so we have the attractive force of Het Heru, and we have the magnetic frequency. Okay, that draws everything together. It brings together ideas of likes, of compatible ideas. It's curvilinear. Its logic goes around. It doesn't go straight to the point. It actually goes around, looks around, and finds similarities and things, and says, "Oh, okay, now I get it." It's the fullness of understanding. It gives full comprehension to the development level of the next level of development that happens here on the tree of life. It's concerned with aesthetic tools like painting, brushes. It observes, again, whole forms, and it's more involved in sensory proofs. Does it feel right? Does it resonate with me? Okay, that's what we were dealing with the Mary Magdalene movie. Okay, so once we bring these two together, we have what's called the Vesica Pisces. We have the two circles, and we bring those together. We have the Vesica Pisces, and that looks like the fish. Okay, and we know that in the beginning, Jesus is the fisher of men. He's known as the the savior in the age of Pisces. He draws the fish in the story. So all of these connections, okay, we have to see that. All right. Now I'm going to show you a little later how the Vesica Pisces is formed, and then the replication of the Vesica Pisces forms the seed of life, and then it forms the flower of life, and then the flower of life, when it's replicated enough, then it forms the whole tree of life. Okay, and that's when we get to the full knowledge, because here, this is where the knowledge of the tree of life is, right here. And we can actually see that Jesus did die. He died, to his old self on the tree, and that's what it says in Scripture. He died on a tree. He didn't die on a cross per se, although there is a cross here. Okay, but he died on a tree, and so he died with the knowledge of the tree of life to his old self. He died to his old self where he was material, in his development as a child. When he was a child, he acted like a child, and now that he is a man, he put away childish things. Okay, so when we move up the tree of life, we have what's called a situation of enlightenment. Okay, and this is why there's a sun there. We know the sun gives light to everything. All right, so I'm losing my. It's 3:30 in the morning, but I'm gonna make it. Okay, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna get this message through. Physiologically, we see that the sun is at the crown, and kings wear their crown on the crown of their head. Okay, and so we can see that the rays, most crowns, we see that they have rays that point up, and I'm going to actually show how that works on another tree of life that I'll be putting together in part 3. Okay, because there's a lot of information to cover here to actually show and prove that this isn't a bunch of smoke that we're blowing. We're actually giving you math. We're giving you science, and if we're not giving you blind faith, and I'm going to explain that to you as well, and you can check it out. Prove it, disprove it, but walk the path for yourself. Discover it, uncover it. All right, this is what this is about. Okay, so we have the king dome. Okay, this is the first stage of the dome that we saw back here with Newt, and her dome. She has the overarching dome, but man has a dome of his own, and that's on his cranium. Okay, and he also has the middle plane, in which the mercy seat rests. Okay, and the the pituitary rests. Okay, so we have all of these correspondences. We have the corpus callosum that's activated when we get the right and left hemispheres. Okay, we see that the right is here. All we're doing is doing this number here. We're turning the face around so it can match, so that it looks just the way you're looking at the image here, with your right eye looking at the right brain function. Okay, so this right eye is looking at the right brain function. All right, so we see other symbology. Remember, we have art, symbol, and then we have imagery. Art, symbol, imagery. So we have other symbols like the Vesica Pisces. We have 3 on our face. The Vesica Pisces, when doing my conversations with the Divine Feminine on last weekend, I was able to find that the Vesica Pisces involves gateways that actually project out and receive in information or things, ideas. Same with the mouth. There's projections that go out and things that go into the mouth. Okay. There's other Vesica Pisces for the female. She has in her vaginal area the Vesica Pisces, things that go in, things that come out. Okay. So there's correspondences. There are gateways. All right. And they're very, very vital gateways to consciousness. Okay. What else am I leaving? Okay, here we go. And so we see, I put a little notation here about the temple, being on the side, the entering of the temple. And this is where the mercy seat is, in the temple. I have the Gad or Cad Mon. Mon is man. Gad is sort of what we use to, it sounds like God, but the Gad is the most high on the physical body, which is the head. And this would be your kingdom or kingdom. All right. So let's take a look at how the gateway or the Vesica Pisces works with the mouth. We have word manifesting. Okay. It manifests language and affects world views. Okay, this is how you create worlds, different worlds, third world. You can create a first world just by the language. Okay, and as a shout out to my good friend Savan Bomar, as he eloquently states that the tongue shapes, forms, cuts, and fashions ideas, the language which shapes, forms, and fashions our world perception, So the tongue is the sword. Tongue is like the sword. It cuts on both ways. It goes left and right, cuts left and right. And it forms words. It's the S word, or the serpent. You see when the tongue sticks out, it's like the serpent. When you put the S there, serpent, and word is the sword. It cuts, forms, fashion, sounds, projecting meaning. All right, so I have on this left side the physical body and energetics. Okay, And this image and the information that's contained here is taken from the book called The Chakras in Shamanic Practice. All right. So this is by Susan J. Wright, and basically what I've done is I've made this same pattern that's seen here, the tree of life, the Paut Neteru at the very bottom part, and assigned them to the body. Okay, so earth is here. It's the first chakra, and then we have the second chakra here in the womb, and then the third and we have the two, which would form the third chakra when they're balanced. Okay, when you bring these two together in the mind, when you balance the brain, the right and the left hemispheres of your psyche, here's how it works. Psychological balance yields physical balance. And when the physical balance happens in the head actually produces the balanced hormones that affect the body. Okay? So when we go through this whole pattern, we see how art allows you to see everything, the connections between everything. But it has to be taught in a certain kind of way that it makes sense. Okay? When we see that kind of connectivity, then you have scientists. You have the best of scientists. You have the best of physicians. With this kind of information, there should be no sickness. Okay? Because we begin to know chemistry once we get into the glandular functions. We know biochemistry. Okay? When those fluids, those elixirs are properly formed and balanced, it makes a good formation of the body, of the organ systems. The glands actually feed the systems with energy. Okay? And all of those fluids, when they're untampered with, they rise up the spine via the nerve plexus that are found in the base of the spine or in the sacral area. Okay, hence the sacral. Okay, the sacred geometry. All right, see how language fits in there. When we know the language, when we know the mathematics, when we know the physiology, when we know the anatomy, then we have the basis for allowing the body to act as a cure. Okay, so the body is the cure. We just add the fruits, the vegetables, the herbs as remedies to activate the curative effects of the body. Okay, now you see why the body is the cure. Okay, it looks like we can move on. Okay, let's see what we have here. All right, so remember, coming from here, once we balance the two, we form the seed of life, or actually we form the vesica Pisces. And I'm going to show you here. Put this up here. I wanted to show the vesica Pisces. Here we have it. We have the two, the left and the right, forming the vesica Pisces. I'm going to see if I can find me a marker here, and we're going to actually draw some. I'm going to draw something that will actually demonstrate the process. All right, coming back into the scene here. All right, so the vesica Pisces is formed, and we have the fish. We have that fish shape. Those shapes that we find on the face and on the feminine anatomy called the vagina. Okay, now when we go into the next phase, okay, let's say we have the vesica Pisces here. We have the vesica Pisces formed here as a result of joining these two circles. Okay, we can actually get a compass. We can pretend like my hand is the compass here. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe I can bring this a little closer. I don't have a zoom function on this particular video camera. It's on my laptop. But when we see that there's a circle and there's a point, we can use a compass, and we can get the radius, and we can find the radius, and then make another circle. Boom. We can find the center, find the radius, make another circle all the way around. Okay, find the center, shoot out the radius. Well, actually, make the radius here. Boom. Find the center, make another circle. Alright, keep doing that. Find the center, make another circle. Boom, 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 boom. All the way around until you have the seed of life. Okay, this seed of life. Okay, once we make this circle around here, we can actually see that there is a flower that blooms in here. There's so much to see in here, you know. And we see the flower that forms. Okay, I mean, there's something else that we see in there as well, that's an ancient symbol. We can actually see the yin and the yang. All right, let's take a look at this. Okay, you remember the circle that goes here, and we have this going around here, all the way around. There's the pot. There's the yin that's formed, and here's the yang. And of course, the yang has the dark circle, and there's your yin and yang. Okay, and that's coming from the Vesica Pisces. That's coming from the merging of the two hemispheres. That's merging of the that can also be viewed as the cellular division that happens with the zygote. Once you put the sex cells together, the sperm and the egg, it forms this 6-sphere zygote. Okay, that's when both the male and the female genetics are brought together to produce another life form. Okay, that could be any animal, it could be the human being. This, when it's replicated again, it forms multiple seeds of life. And these seeds of life, when you start finding their vertices, they form spheres that actually delineate the Paut Neteru itself, which is the blueprint of the human body and the universal structure, including the sun. Look at that, the sun in the middle. So that becomes this, you know. And when we have all of these elements put together, we can start seeing life unfold right in front of our eyes. And we can go outside in nature and see these same patterns in flowers. We can see them in our fruit and vegetables. We can see the 5, the 6. We can see the spirals and pretty much everything. So we have the seed of life, yin yang, male female, sex cell, which is the 6th cell. We see the yin and the yang. Yin and the yang is nothing but 2 6s. There are a 6 and a 9. The 9 is an inverted 6. We have, in that formation, if we made these circles into 3-dimensional forms, it would form the sex cell or zygote. Here we have the seed of life expanding to the flower of life, expanding to the tree of life, and we see it come into full view here. Okay, and sometimes we can actually look at this extra circle that's formed at this vertex here, and it's actually outside of it, outside of the realm that has come through the vesica Pisces that encompasses it. Okay, and so we can look at that in terms of spiritual or psychological terms as being able to look beyond the realm, beyond this realm of creation here. All right, so if we have that would be almost like having that seventh chakra open, and we tap into the eighth, which taps into the field that that surrounds our body. Okay, and we can actually feel someone else's field. If they're strong, if their field is strong enough, we can actually feel another person next to us, and their attitude towards you. So this was quite an adventure. I'm really thrilled to have gotten this video made, because you would not believe the obstacles that I faced prior to this. It's a long story, and I'll tell you one day. But thank you all for your patience, and thank you for tuning in. We're going to have part 3 of Het Heru, because Het Heru allows us to see things. It allows us to see the masculine and the feminine, and we're actually going to go into more of the masculine and into some of the corrupt things that we're seeing today in today's Western society, and the growing so-called global phenomena of corruption. So we'll get a chance to see that, and we'll be able to check it. We'll be able to check it with our mathematical vision. Okay, bringing the two hemispheres together to come up with a clear picture. Okay, we look through our apertures, our vesica Pisces, and then we're able to speak the truth of what we're seeing in our world. Thanks again for viewing. I hope this helps, and leave a message in the message in our YouTube and in the Facebook space. All right, thank you all. Take care.